Good morning, Braden. Good morning. Let me see where I put them. Let me see where I put them. You might hate where I have them. You might hate where I have them. Good morning, Bailey. Hello, everybody. I am very much looking forward to this show because I did the list. I've actually checked it multiple times. I've made multiple changes, and after doing it multiple times, Bailey, I agree with you. I hate my list. I hate the way it turns out. This was so hard. This was impossible to do. Bailey, I had the Chiefs so low the first time I did it, and I was like, I've got to make them. I've got to make an adjustment. So they were one of the teams that got adjusted. I made some adjustment on a couple of different teams, but and that's what makes me so excited to do this because this was really really hard and really really challenging, and so that's why I'm coming into it. I know that the list is going to generate some buzz and controversy, and we're just going to go through it. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Braden says, honestly, I don't expect them to be high. The ceiling is lower as pure runners compared to passing downs, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, listen, when we look at this, we take all that stuff into account, right? For me, at least when putting together this list, I take into account like how productive they're going to be across the board. But I think I put them in a range where they ended up is I think okay. So I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I just need to send out the tweet and then we can get started. Another day, another list. Today it's my official rankings. My official ranking. I think a few established vets might be over the hill now and rank the backfields accordingly. Bailey, I don't necessarily disagree. Chris probably downgrading his own team just for the abandoned Canada pick. The Jets are probably not as high as you think they are. They're probably not as high up as you think they are. And again, it's tough because like I don't want to do the show before the show, but like how many games of Brees Hall are you going to get, right? That factors in. If I'm getting 17 of Brees Hall, then that changes how I feel about this group going into 2023. But I don't have that. We're not going to have 17 games. All right, Braden, appreciate you just hopping in here. Enjoy the rest of your day at work. We've got a fun one today, and I hope you'll catch it on demand later. I know you will. So should be a good one. Heldy has returned from hiatus. Heldy, what a day to return from hiatus. We'll do this. We're here. Hello, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Happy Wednesday. Um, I hate the list. I hate it. I don't love it. I worked very hard on it. I like teams 1 and 2. I like the teams I put in the first two spots. I, I mean, maybe I like my top five, but after that, I hate every bit of it. I really don't like it. Not because I don't think like I did the work and I thought about it. It's just some of these running back rooms are pretty decent, and some of them are very very similar, and so it's hard to determine what you're going to prioritize when doing the list. Are you going to prioritize having a really good number one, or are you going to like want to have a deep running back room? There was a lot that went on, and so I don't want to give too much away. We're going to get into it here. I know Bailey's got his list. I know he did the homework as well, so it should be a lot of fun. Bailey says the team I put seventh, I would not be mad at being like 22nd. Let me see what I got here. The team that I have seven, there's a floor that I wouldn't be willing to go past. But I think overall, I agree with what you're saying. Like outside the top 10, if you wanted to put that team 25, great. You wanted to put them 10, no problem. But I feel pretty good about what I did here. So we're gonna press record. We're gonna get started with the podcast version of the show, and we will see where this list takes us. And welcome in to the Wednesday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope everybody is having a fantastic start to their Wednesday. And as always, we've got a fun one in store for you here today. We were discussing it in the pre-show. Another list on the show, and this list I absolutely hate. I hate the way it turned out, but we are going to go through the process. We are going to share it with you. We started on was it Monday? We did our quarterback room rankings ahead of the 2023 season. We're going to go through each position group between now and the start of the season. And so today we've got the running backs next up here on the list, and we'll continue to do these throughout the next couple of weeks until we are done with all of the position groups. So running backs up here next, and I've done this list about 3 or 4 times. I did a quick run through of it once, just kind of looking at depth charts and seeing how I feel about teams and putting them in order. And then I looked at it a couple of times, made some changes based on where a team ultimately ended up. There were teams that just in the process of comparing depth charts and comparing different teams, you forgot about a team. And then all of a sudden you were into the 20s and it was like, oh, I don't know if this team should be this low. It was very, very difficult. Do you prioritize having a really good, strong number one back? Or in today's NFL, do you prioritize having multiple options at the position? If you can blend the two together, that puts you higher up on the list, I think, in my opinion. So let's get this list underway because I think it's going to generate a lot of conversation. We're probably going to sidebar a bunch. There are obviously 32 teams to talk about. And so there's a lot to get into. I will say, I thought the easiest thing for me to do were teams 1 and teams 2. I think putting my top 2 spots together were the easiest part of this list for me personally. Now, maybe you won't agree that these teams should be number 1 and number 2 on this list, but for me, it was very easy to put these two teams at the top of the list because they have a great number 1, and I think they have a very, very, very good number 2. I think both of these teams check these boxes. So for me, number 1, the best running back room in the National Football League is the Green Bay Packers. I think you really, truly have two number 1s in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And so for me, I think that is a slam dunk, no doubt. That's got to be number 1. And in the chat is already trying to guess what the number team is because the number 2 team is because they've guessed the Packers. We've seen some 49ers love. We've seen some Falcons love. I'm assuming I'm taking these rosters at the way they are currently constructed. And so right now, the Minnesota Vikings with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison have to be number 2 for me. They have to be number 2 for me. If Dalvin Cook moves on and Alexander Madison's the number 1, then we would shift this list and move them down. But there are reports that Dalvin Cook might be willing to restructure his deal and take a pay cut to stay there in Minnesota. And so him leaving is not necessarily a guarantee. So if we are evaluating this right now as it currently stands, you've got a top 6, 8 back in the league with Dalvin Cook and a really, really high upside backup in Alexander Mattison. And so for me, they are number 2. And Bailey immediately disagrees and says, Cook is part of my washed group. I have them way, way down. No. I can't get there with you. I cannot get there with you. I still believe there's stuff left in the tank for Dalvin Cook. So that's number 1 and number 2. Felt pretty good about that. I don't feel great about the rest of this list. We'll just go through it in order, and I'll share thoughts where need be. At number 3, I prioritized having a really, really, really good number 1 because the backup isn't that great. The backup is solid. They've got some other guys in the room that can do some things. But for me, the Indianapolis Colts, Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss at number 3. And again, Jonathan Taylor does a lot of the heavy lifting there because of how good of a back he is. He elevates where I think that room can be. Number 4, this is a room that has a top end number 1, I think, that still has something left in the tank, and 2 really good backups, in my opinion. The New Orleans Saints at number 4 with Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams, who they signed in free agency, and then the top 75 selection of Kendre Miller. Again, a well-rounded group. You're not going to get 17 games of Alvin Kamara more than likely, but Jamal Williams found the end zone a bunch last year, was a really good runner for Detroit. You know when Kamara's on the field what he's going to give you, and you've got a pretty good high upside rookie that you're going to be able to throw into the mix as well. So for me, New Orleans, number 4, again, a top end back, but also a pretty deep room. Number 5, I struggled with what to do with this team, but at the end of the day, I think Nick Chubb can carry enough weight to be able to put the Cleveland Browns in the top 5. So Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford for the Cleveland Browns at number 5 for me. And again, Nick Chubb does a lot of the heavy lifting there. I think this is going to be a surprise to some people, but I thought a very good rookie season from this player. And they drafted another running back. I have the Seattle Seahawks number 6. We know what Kenneth Walker can do. We know the priority that Seattle's going to put on running the football, and they added Zach Charbonnet to that room as well, and I think he's going to be able to be pretty good in year 1 as a great complementary piece to Kenneth Walker and get a ton of touches. So for me, number 6 for Seattle. Number 7, a group that maybe doesn't have a great top-end player, but it's got 3 decent options. The Philadelphia Eagles, DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell, Rashad Penny. For me, Rashad Penny was pretty good in Seattle at the tail end of his tenure there. DeAndre Swift, we know what he is. He's not going to be what everybody thought he was going to be, but we know what he is. And Kenny Gainwell is a very nice option as well. So for me, having those 3 decent options, I think they would all be classified as average at worst. Heldy wants me to make sure that we have Boston Scott in there as well when discussing them. The Cincinnati Bengals at number 8. Again, Joe Mixon's still on the roster, so we're going to evaluate him as a member of this team. And so Joe Mixon and Chase Brown. I'm really high on Chase Brown here for the 2023 season. I think he's going to be able to carve out a nice role for himself in Cincinnati and be really good. And Joe Mixon does a lot of the heavy lifting there as well. Number 9, I have the Tennessee Titans. We have some comments in the chat about the Titans not being inside the top 3. Hassan Haskins and Tajay Spears are a little tough. Tajay Spears, a rookie, does have the injury profile a little bit. Derrick Henry, how much does he truly have left in the tank? I still think he's good enough to warrant being in the top 10. I don't love the options behind him over the course of a 17-game season, but they do have a deep enough room to where I felt like it warranted being inside the top 10, so I put them ninth. At number 10 is where I have the Detroit Lions, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Again, I'm betting on some rookie production out of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, a solid back. Not the starter, Jamie. I don't know if you're still in here, but not the starter. Jahmyr Gibbs' role is going to be, but a very, very good number 2. San Francisco here at number 11, Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell for me. Again, didn't want to have Christian McCaffrey drop too far. I don't love the room entirely because Elijah Mitchell does have some injury concerns, really hasn't been able to finish seasons healthy. But Christian McCaffrey is too good to not be inside the top 12, so this felt like a decent range for me to slot them in. The Atlanta Falcons, number 12, betting a lot on Bijan Robinson, but Tyler Algier is a player that you should not sleep on, was pretty good last year when he got the majority of the workload. So I feel really good about those two guys in that room. The Los Angeles Chargers at 13, Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelly, and Isaiah Spiller. We know how they use Austin Eckler, and we know the production that they get out of that position group, so we feel pretty good about them being at number 13. The Kansas City Chiefs at number 14, Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. At 15, the Washington Commanders, Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. And that kind of closes out, I think, a tier where, I shouldn't say a tier, but a range where I felt like I had to get certain teams in there, and they needed to be in the top 15. I have Jacksonville at 16 with Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, and JaMychal Hasty. I don't love this room, but I felt like it would be too punishing to Travis Etienne and how good he was a year ago to have them fall outside of the top 16. And that's the balance you have to strike, right? Because if I don't love the full room and I want to punish a team in terms of the rankings for the rest of the room, but they have a really good number 1, I need to figure out how to counterweight that and put them in a range that I felt, or put them in a spot that I felt was respectful of both of those factors. And so for me, I think Travis Etienne is a top 16 back in the league right now, but I don't love the running back room as a whole, so I kind of just slotted them in at 16. I have the Jets at 17, Breece Hall, Israel Abanikanda, and Michael Carter. Again, how much are you getting from Breece in this season? He's a rookie who's going to take on a role. Michael Carter wasn't that great in the second half of last year, so there's some question marks. And so, again, I have them at 17. The Carolina Panthers at 18 with Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. The Chicago Bears at 19, Deonta Foreman and Khalil Herbert. The first team that I have no idea truly what to do with, and a team that maybe is the first team we look at moving out of their spot. The Dallas Cowboys I have at 20. I think we all love Tony Pollard, but Malik Davis is the backup there. That room isn't very good. And so if there are some teams, I'll tell you, a team that I really struggled with that I think needs to move up is Houston. I have them pretty low on this list, so there might be an easy move there. The Las Vegas Raiders at 21. The same thing there. I like Josh Jacobs, Amir Abdullah, just a decent backup option. I have the Baltimore Ravens at 23 with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. The Denver Broncos at 24 with Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine. Again, what are you getting from Javonte Williams? The New England Patriots at 25, Ramondre Stevenson and James Robinson. Like I mentioned, I have the Houston Texans at 26, Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. 27, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. 28, the Los Angeles Rams, Cam Akers, Kyron Williams, and Zach Evans. 29, the Miami Dolphins, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, and Devon Achane. At 30, the Buffalo Bills, James Cook, Damian Harris, Latavius Murray, and Naheem Hines. The Tampa Bay Bucks at 31, Rashad White and Chase Edmonds. And I have the Arizona Cardinals, James Conner, and Keontae Ingram at 32. Of course, my good friend over at Locked On Dolphins, this is the show that he chooses to appear in when I have his team ranked low. I don't love it, Kyle. I don't love it. I don't love where I have them. They're one of the teams that I have starred to move around. Like I said, I don't love the back half of this list. And so I think the first place that I'd like to have a conversation with the group and hear everybody else's opinions on is, do we feel Dallas and Las Vegas are in decent spots? Because those are the two teams that I feel pretty strongly about moving. I mean, guys, it's the running. I mean, these are running back room rankings, and I think more so than the quarterback conversation. I think more than the quarterback conversation, the entire room has to play a role. And you have to be an absolutely exceptional true number one running back to kind of overweight the other side of this and move you way up the board. Okay. And so that's the mindset. And so do we feel that Josh Jacobs is good enough to move up this list? I think he's good enough to move above Tony Pollard. So we're going to make a quick change and we're going to put them 20 and put Dallas 21. Okay. So we're going to move them up one spot. LD, I think Atlanta could have been higher, to be honest. Can we, folks, one thing at a time. Can we tackle one problem at a time? I know this was going to be a lengthy show with this list, but let's just take it one step at a time. So now we have Dallas at 20. Bailey, the Raiders 10th. You're allowing Josh Jacobs to do too much of the heavy lifting based off of one good season. I'm sorry, you can't get there with me. I can't do it. I can't get there. Bailey says he still can't get over the Vikings. What's there? I mean, we've got two really good running backs. Well, who cares if Josh Jacobs is a first-round running back? It's what have you done for me lately? And I don't love the backup options they have in that room. I'm surprised. I'm stunned that this is getting the vitriol that it is. I thought we would have some debates, but I didn't think it was going to be in the back half of the list. I thought it was going to be the middle of the list. Brees coming off an injury and no longer in a wide zone system. The Jets should be below Dallas and Las Vegas, in my opinion. You listen. I have no problem with that. I'm looking up a list here. I'm trying to grab some lists for us here. I mean, Dalvin Cook was 10th in rushing yards per game last year. If Amir is your backup, it's a bad room. Heldy, that's my point. And I don't think Josh Jacobs is so much better that he's able to override that. Now, if we want to move him, we can move him. Do we like Carolina where they are? At like 18. Because I think we could put the Raiders above the Bears. I think we could put the Raiders above the Bears if we wanted to. And have the Raiders be 19. I can't get the Raiders anywhere near the top 10. I can't get them in front of Atlanta. I can't get them in front of San Francisco. I can't get them in front of Detroit. I can't get them in front of Tennessee. And the only complaint of the top 10, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but the only complaint about the top 10 is Minnesota. That's the only major complaint that has been filed, and it was by Bailey. I've got Green Bay in there. I've got Indianapolis in there. I've got New Orleans in there, Cleveland, Seattle, Philly, Cincinnati, Tennessee, and Detroit. I have the 49ers 11th, Bailey. I have the 49ers 11th. Now we're splitting hairs. We need to get through we have to get through major disagreements before we start. I can't put them any higher without removing a team from the top 10. Who comes out? And it can't be Minnesota. I'm not doing it. I can't if I move Minnesota, I'm not moving them out of the top 10. I might move them down a couple spots. I might move like Indy into the 2 spot. I still think Minnesota is going to be a top. Did you had Minnesota 3rd? Oh, you had San Francisco 3rd. You had San Francisco 3rd. Okay. I mean, I don't know, man. I love this. I cannot wait for this list. This is going to be to go through this list. This is going to be a lot of fun. Be right back buying Chris a Dalvin Cook jersey. He was 6th. He was 6th in yards last year. He was 6th in rushing yards last year. I just pulled it up. He's washed. He was 6th in yards last year. It's not like I'm. Bailey says, Chris, I do not want to say where I had the Vikings. I think I was too low. You see, Bailey, I'm comfortable enough to come on here, turn on the webcam, and share my list with the world, and be vulnerable, and share the list. Because I have no problems. I'll defend my list. Okay, so here's what I think we need to do as a group. How do we feel about the top 10? And I will just read the top 10. Green Bay, Minnesota, Indy, New Orleans, Cleveland, Seattle, Philly, Cincinnati, Tennessee, Detroit. Is there anything major that we need to discuss? Because I'd like to freeze out the top 10. And I know that there's some love for San Francisco. Bailey, how about this, Bailey? How about this? I'll do you a solid. I'll move San Francisco in front of Detroit. And I'll get San Francisco into the top 10. Does that make you better? Does that make you better? New Orleans needs to move down, in my opinion. They've got a better room than Cleveland. If you want to say Nick Chubb is better than Alvin Kamara, I would agree with you. But would you take Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller over Jerome Ford? I would. And I think that's enough to counterweight Nick Chubb versus Alvin Kamara. Bailey, I get it. I understand. And so San Francisco's going to be in the top 10. Sean Back says, Bills being a bottom 3 room seems disrespectful to me. James Cook in year 2, and let's not act like Damian Harris hasn't been productive his whole career. I don't know, Sean. I mean, if it's a quantity argument, right? You're saying they've just got 4 guys. There's some love for moving to. All right, you guys have bullied me. You guys have bullied me. I have flip-flopped San Francisco and Cincinnati. San Francisco is now 8th on the list. I have the San Francisco 49ers 8th on the list. I'm not moving the Bills. I'm sorry. You're not going to convince me that the Bills aren't bullying works. Yeah, bullying works. You're not going to convince me that the Bills have a better than where I have them. It maybe they move up a couple of spots, but like I'm sorry, the room's not very good. The Falcons. All right, hold on, because let's finish this Saints debate. Because here's how I want to present it to you. Just look at the teams directly behind New Orleans and tell me who needs to move in front of them. Should Cleveland move in front of New Orleans? Would you rather Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford? Again, this is an entire room conversation. Would you rather have Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford, or would you rather have Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams, and Kendre Miller? I would rather have the Saints room than I would rather just basically have Nick Chubb. I don't think Jerome Ford's bad, but he's entering in a new role in 2023. And so I feel comfortable having the Saints at 4. Would you rather Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet over the Saints running back room? Would you rather the Philadelphia Eagles, DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell? Heldley says, I am being perfectly honest, I would rather have just Chubb. Okay, and that's where we disagree. And so I'm not gonna waver from New Orleans. I hear the arguments, but to me, the room as a whole is worth of keeping them where they're at. So we're gonna lock the top 4. We're gonna lock Green Bay, Minnesota, Indianapolis, and New Orleans. We're gonna lock those 4 in. Now, 5 through 10 is Cleveland, Seattle, Philadelphia, San Francisco, because bullying works. Cincinnati, Tennessee is the top 10. That's the top 10. I think we can lock in the top 10. I know there's some love for Atlanta. Would I rather have Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, or would I rather have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs? I would rather have Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. So we're going to make that change. So Atlanta is going to flip-flop with Detroit. They're going to move into the 11th spot. Would I rather have Bijan Robinson? And Cordell Patterson? It's a great point, Heldy. Would I rather have Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Cordell Patterson? I think I'd rather have them than Cincinnati. The fall for Cincinnati's tough. The fall for Cincinnati has been very, very real. I've got people tweeting me in the Discord, messaging me in the Discord for something. Hold on here. We're checking on something. So, all right, folks, there's some breaking news that could impact this. I don't think we should use this information to change our opinion of this team, but I'll ask you guys what you want me to do. Robert Saleh just told the media that he is, quote, very optimistic, end quote, that Breece Hall is going to be ready for week 1. Do we want to take that piece of information and change the way we feel about the Jets? Because personally, I don't want to. Personally, I don't want to read into OTA comments about a guy's health and have that be the determiner of moving a team up and down. So I'm just going to present the information to you that Robert Saleh is saying that Breece Hall they're very optimistic he's going to be ready for week 1, and he's already hitting like 22 on the GPS numbers. So, but I think we should put that to the side. Okay, and I'm glad everybody agrees with me. So we're going to put them to the side. I have them 18th right now. I feel like that's reasonable. So, okay, we have Green Bay, Minnesota, Indianapolis, New Orleans locked in through the top 4. Our next group, Cleveland, Seattle, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Atlanta, and Cincinnati. Tennessee outside the top 10, but okay. I think we are gonna officially. I'm gonna flip Tennessee and Cincinnati. The fall for Cincinnati is real right now. The fall for Cincinnati is real. And then we're gonna lock in the top 10. The top 10 is now locked. And the top 10 is locked as follows. The top 10 is now Green Bay, Minnesota, Indianapolis, New Orleans, Cleveland, Seattle, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Atlanta, and Tennessee. We've now locked in the top 10. Now we can have all the disagreements. It can be the wild, wild west for the rest of this list. Our next chunk, we have. We have. Oh, I have to. We have 33 teams in here. Who do I have to get rid of? I have Atlanta in here twice. Okay. So our next 5 are Cincinnati, Detroit, the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Commanders. I like Cincinnati at 11. I think that's incredibly reasonable. I like the Lions at 12, betting on the upside of Jahmyr Gibbs. You have a decent option in David Montgomery. I like the Chargers. Austin Eckler, you know what you're going to get with him, but you got pretty good backups in Joshua Kelly and Isaiah Spiller. That's more of a entirety of the room conversation. Kansas City, I can't disrespect them too much, but they're not true runners in the sense they're used more in the passing game, so 14 feels pretty reasonable. And Washington, Brian Robinson, and Antonio Gibson. I like this chunk, guys. I don't think there's a huge team behind this group that needs to move up. Do we think like, I mean, the only argument we were having earlier was should Vegas come up further? And I don't know if Vegas is going to be able to come up further than all of these teams. I think the earliest we can get Vegas up to is 16. Because I would take Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson over Josh Jacobson and Amir Abdullah. I would take Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon over Josh Jacobs and Amir Abdullah. Maybe I don't agree with that. Maybe I would take Josh Jacobs because he's better than both Pacheco and McKinnon. The Vegas is tough. I'm going to lock in 11 through 13. That's what we're going to lock in. So the top 13 of this list is set up. Maybe Vegas over Washington, but that's it. Let's move Vegas to here. Let's move Vegas to 15. We'll put them in front of Washington, and we'll see what we like with that. I still think I would take Kansas City. So we're going to lock in the top 15. We're going to lock in the top 16. We're going to keep Washington where they're at. Okay, now we got Jacksonville at 17, the Jets at 18, the Panthers at 19, the Bears at 20, the Cowboys at 21. That's our next kind of chunk. And I think the conversation we have to have here when doing this is the Bears, do we want to move them lower? I thought D'Onta Foreman was pretty good last year. Khalil Herbert has showed that he's a capable starter. So we've got 2 decent options. I think we can say we've got 2 decent options in Chicago, and we don't have 2 decent options in Dallas. Okay. Question for the group. This has now become a Q&A session here. Is Saquon Barkley good enough on his own? Because they got Matt Breida as the backup, and they got Eric Gray as well. Is Saquon Barkley good enough on his own to put him in front of Carolina and Chicago and to put him in front of the Jets? Do we feel that that's something that we can do? Because to me, I think the answer to that question is yes. Because the question with Saquon has always been health. But he was incredibly healthy last year and carried that team and is always the player. And so, yes, Tate, it is all about health. But going into the season, I don't have concerns that he's going to, have a fluke injury. The injuries that he had were like serious injuries. And so I think we can move the Giants. And again, Breida I don't love it. But I'm going to put the Giants 18th. That's where they're going to move to. They're going to move in front of the Jets. They're going to move in front of the Panthers. They're going to move in front of the Bears. Now, Houston's a team I think we have to move. I think Dameon Pierce is. So Tate, we can't put the Giants 17 because that would require us to move Jacksonville. The Giants do also have Eric Gray. And again, I don't want to punish Tank Bigsby and JaMychal Hasty too much because I think that would be punishing Travis Etienne. And so I think we got to move Houston. This is why I hated this list, because you can move these around and then you still don't love the order. I want to move Houston. Who do I want to move Houston in front of? I want to move Houston in front of Denver. I want to move Houston in front of Baltimore. I think I want to move Houston in front of Dallas. I think I want to move Houston in front of Chicago. I'm moving Houston all the way up to the top 20, folks. Houston's moving all the way up. Houston is up to 20. All right. New order here. Jacksonville 17, the Giants 18, the Jets 19, the Texans 20, the Panthers 21, the Bears 22, the Cowboys 23. Do we like that? Is that a group that we can be okay with? I'm going to tentatively put these in the italics, which means we've locked it in because I've already done it. So now we just got the back part of this list. How about we do this? How about we go from the back? Does anybody disagree And Bailey, I feel as long as we are agreeing the aggregate of the ranges, then I think we're splitting hairs and it's probably not worth a debate, right? If we're vastly apart, me and the YouTube audience and the live audience of the show, then I think it's worthy of us sidebarring and having these conversations. The back part of the list. Tampa and Arizona. Does anybody have any other two teams that they want to nominate for those two spots? And I know there was some criticism of like I have hate for James Conner, but like I don't know, James Conner's fine, and Keontae Ingram's not a great backup. So is there any other team that we want to enter in the Rams? Cam Akers and Kyron Williams and Zach Evans. I mean, they've just got too deep of a room to not be. I have them 28, but all right. So we have the Rams, the Bucks, and the Cardinals. Do we want to make the Rams? The bottom three are locked. Right now, the bottom three are Buffalo, Tampa, and Arizona. We could do a quick flip. We could do a quick flip of Buffalo and LA. We could do a quick flip. Hold on here. We're going to do a quick flip. Sorry for the awkward sounds. All right, so we move Buffalo up to 28. We move the Rams down into the bottom three, and the bottom three is now Los Angeles, Tampa, and Arizona. And I feel really good about that. So I'm going to lock in the bottom three. So now we have this middle chunk. We have Baltimore at 24, Denver at 25, New England at 26, Pittsburgh at 27, Buffalo at 28, and Miami at 29. That's our group. I like the floor that we just set for the Rams. Do we? I feel like we're being disrespectful to the Ravens, but like, what is J.K. Dobbins anymore? Like, I don't know. And Gus Edwards is an okay backup. Javonte Williams, like, how many games of Javonte are we going to get this year? I think Denver's got to go lower. Now that I'm looking at it, I think we got to put New England in front of Denver. I think we've got to put Pittsburgh in front of Denver. I think Buffalo's got to go in front of Denver too here, folks. Ramondre and James Robinson might be the best of that group. They might be. I think Buffalo's got to go back into the 20 into this spot. Because I think Miami has a better room than them, so they need to go. So Buffalo, we're going to lock in at 29. We're going to lock them in there. I think New England's going to go up to 24, and they're going to lock themselves in there. So we've got that locked. And so now we've got four teams that we're debating. Baltimore. We've got Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Denver, and Miami. Those are the four teams that will. That's the group that we're looking at. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Denver, and Miami. Right, Tate, but I'm looking at this going into 2023, and I don't know how many games we're going to get of Javonte Williams. And so that means I have to look at the whole room, and Samaje Perine is the backup there. And so when you look at it from that perspective, this room can't be evaluated that great. You know what, guys? I think I'm gonna do one thing. Who do we think is the worst out of Baltimore? And this is probably the worst way to do it. But who do you think is the worst room out of Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Denver, and Miami going into 2023? And why do we think it's the Baltimore Ravens? Because that's where my gut tells me right now. Miami, you have to worry about the health of Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, but they've got Devon Achane, who they're going to give some work to. They've got three backs in that room that all can carry what they're going to be asked to do offensively. They're in a great system. So, like, I think I got to give that room a little bit more love. I think Baltimore's got to come down. I think Baltimore's got to come into this spot. Miami has enough guys that even when two are inevitably hurt, they have somebody. Yeah, Bailey, and I think that deserves some love, right? So Baltimore's going to go 28. I'm locking this in. This is the most comfortable I've been with the list. Okay, we're locked. We're going to read it one more time. And if there are any other last-minute things that we want to discuss, that's what we'll discuss, and then we'll get out of here. Green Bay 1, Minnesota 2, Indy 3, New Orleans 4, Cleveland 5, Seattle 6, Philadelphia 7, San Francisco 8, Atlanta 9, Tennessee 10, Cincinnati 11, Detroit 12, the Chargers 13, the Chiefs 14, the Raiders 15, the Commanders 16, the Jags 17, the Giants 18, the Jets 19, the Texans 20, the Panthers 21, the Bears 22, the Cowboys 23, the Patriots 24, the Steelers 25, the Broncos 26, the Dolphins 27, the Ravens 28, the Bills 29, the Rams 30, the Bucks 31, and the Cardinals 32. That is the official running back room list for 2023. I still hate it, even though we just worked through it as a group. I still don't like it. There's still so much that I would like to tinker with, but I think it's just tinkering on the margins. Bailey says the only team I am massively way out from you on is the Vikings. Yeah, we can just agree to disagree there. That's fine. That's fine. Is Philly that high for everyone else? I don't know. Ask Bailey. I think Bailey had them pretty close to where I had them, and I know he did a list, but this feels fine. And again, there's some tinkering that I think maybe people would want to do. They don't want to flip one or two teams, but I think overall, I feel pretty good about the way that this list sets up for 2023. That is going to do it for the podcast version of the show. Appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day. Please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast if you've been enjoying these deep dives, these rankings lists. We've got more of them coming. We're going through every position group over the next couple of weeks. We alternate. Every other day, you're going to get one of these episodes. Maybe we'll do it on Friday. I know we do the Friday free-for-all, so we'll keep that up in the air between the Friday free-for-all and this, and doing another list. Probably wide receiver rooms would be the next group up for us to do. So that's the next one up. So it's either going to be Friday or Monday is when we will do that. If you've done all those things, rate, review, subscribe, share the show with a friend, coworker, loved one, somebody that you think would enjoy this show. We'd greatly appreciate it as we continue to build the momentum into the 2023 NFL and college seasons. Catch us on the YouTube version of the show, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we do that over on the Draft Network YouTube page. If you want to catch us on demand, if you can't catch us live at 11 a.m., you can do so as well underneath the live tab. All of the VODs from all of the shows are there, so you can catch up on any of the shows that you missed if you want to see some of the video version of the show. So you can do that as well. And you get the post show, and you get the recording of the show when you hang out with us live on YouTube. So you've got that to look forward to as well. I appreciate everybody making this show a part of the day. I know there's a lot of things that you could be listening to. The fact that you take some time out of your day to listen to this show and listen to me banter with myself and with the live YouTube audience, we greatly do appreciate it very, very much. So I hope everybody has a great rest of their Wednesday. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Okay, into the post show. Brees Hall being ready for week one is not something that I was. By the way, if Brees Hall is available for week one, then drafting Izzy Abanikanda is still a bad pick. I think this further emphasizes my point. I think this further proves my point that drafting Israel Abanikanda was a bad decision. But that's neither here nor there. So I'll ask the chat that's here, who's ever still left hanging out with us here on the YouTube side of things. You have the Vikings 18th, Bailey? Wow, that's really low. Yeah, I couldn't get there. I mean, Cook was a top 6 rusher last year. He was a top 6 rusher. Madison's great. It's a great 1-2 room. If one of them gets hurt, the other guy can pick up the slack. I couldn't. If Dalvin Cook stays in Minnesota, then I think it needs to stay there. But you and I disagree on what Dalvin Cook can be in 2023, and that's fine. And I'm okay with that being the thing that has you put them 18th and me put them second, right? And I'm okay with that. If you thought that Dalvin Cook was going to be good this upcoming season, but you still had them 18th, then there's a problem. But because we are vastly different in how we feel Dalvin Cook will be able to perform in 2023, then I understand why you have them 18th and I have them second. I'll ask the group that's still here, and appreciate everybody being here in the post show. Do we want to do a Friday free-for-all on Friday, or do we want to do the wide receiver room list? I'll leave it up to the people that are still here to determine what we do. I can go either way. If we want to do a free-for-all, we can. But I do want to at least ask the group. Tate, I'm sorry that Tennessee's so low, but they're still a top 10 squad. Wide receiver rankings, I prefer, says Bailey. Tate says wide receiver room. Okay, I mean that's what we'll do. I'm good with either. Yeah, then we'll do the wide receiver and we'll continue to do these. But we're gonna have a lot of these. We got to go through both sides of the ball. So there's going to be there seems to be an overwhelming majority for wide receiver room. So that's what we'll do on Friday. Tomorrow we'll take a break. We'll do something else. No, Tate, no, I appreciate it. I listen, the point of this show is not for me to talk into a microphone for 35, 40 minutes just me and my thoughts. It is to have you guys in here sharing your thoughts, arguing with me, disagreeing with me, and having the banter. I greatly appreciate it. I have no problem. That's why I share the list the way that I do. I share the list, and then we debate what feels egregious to you guys. And then if there's something that I'm completely, I'm not going to move a team, then we keep that and we move on to the next issue. But I'm always willing to hear out an argument, and I always appreciate the conversation. Yeah, Bailey, I think the depth would be the concern there, right? Is they have depth, they have 3 guys, but I don't know what I love Tajay, right? Let's make it very clear, I love Tajay Spears, but I got to see him in this role before I can know if it's going to work. And then Hassan Haskins is just all right to me. But if it all clicks and Tajay's a great number 2 for Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry continues to do what we've seen from him over the course of the last couple of years and what they expect of him down there in Tennessee, then yeah, by the end of the season they'll be way up on this list. But yeah, they did need to be in the top 10. And again, there's a great balance that you have to strike, right? You really have to be able to figure out how much do you want to have a one running back carry the workload for the room when having this conversation, and is that running back good enough to override the other stuff? That's the balance you have to have. Bailey says, like, the Falcons have a 1,000-yard rusher as a backup, and we presume Bijan is good, so it's hard to know who to rank higher because Henry is clearly elite, but no guarantees behind him. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think Bijan, Tyler Algier, and Cordell Patterson are a better room. Have I done O-line room yet? No, the only 2 that we've done are quarterback and running back. Those are the only 2 that we've done. You can catch the quarterback one. It was Monday's show. You can catch it in the podcast feed, or you can catch the video version here on YouTube, either one. But no, we've only done 2. We've only done quarterback and running back. Wide receiver is going to be up on Friday. And then the other 2 that we need to do for offense are tight end and offensive line. And O-line will be the starting 5. We will just be ranking the starting 5 for teams' offensive lines. So that's how that ranking will go. It'll be who has the best starting 5 going into the 2023 season. So that's what we'll do there. But yeah, that'll be next week for sure, because we'll have wide receiver on Friday, and then we'll take a break on Monday, and then Tuesday we'll get back at it with taking the easy way out. Sam, I host 2 podcasts, right? I got a lot of content I got to research for. Guy wants me to deep dive into teams' 3rd string centers to be able to do this list. No, starting 5. I'm not going to get bullied into this one. We are absolutely not doing depth. We're just looking at starting 5. Not a chance. Anything else before I get out of here on a Wednesday? Got to go edit the show. How long did it take to get comfortable in front of a camera? It's a great question, Tate. I don't know. I've always just it doesn't really bother me. I've always kind of been comfortable with it. It's funny. I am okay in this environment. I'm okay doing. I have a background in radio. I have zero issue doing a live radio show at like a restaurant or something, or at a bar as a pregame show or something like that, or at a casino. I have no problem with that. If I'm not in that environment, and if I'm not producing content, but if I'm trying to be like an MC for an event, because I've done some stuff like that before, it's not like I get nervous. Like I don't get nervous. I just don't like it. Like it's just not like I would rather not do it. I just would rather not do it. So this is really comfortable to me because I'm talking about stuff that I know and I feel pretty comfortable and knowledgeable in. Like I feel like I can carry my own. We've been going for 45 minutes now. And I feel like I'm pretty good at it. So that's where the comfort level comes from me. Bailey, is the wide receiver room the entire room of the top 3 guys that will have my list on Friday? Yeah, we're just going to rank the top 3. We're just going to rank 1 through 3 for all these teams. Let me see how our lads breaks it down, because that's what I use to kind of look at all the teams. Let me see how they have it broken down. Depth chart by position, wide receiver. Yeah, it's gonna be the top 3, because when you look at each team, they put a chunk of 3 guys. Although the problem with that is it's gonna it can't just be the top 3, because I think there are some teams where, like right now, according to the depth chart, Jalen Hyatt's not a starter in New York, but like Jalen Hyatt would help the Giants wide receiver room. So, okay. And this is going to be subjective, right? And so I know what I'm doing by opening up this can of worms. But I'm just going to look at what I think are the 3 best wide receivers on each team. I think that's the way that I'll do it. Not that that they'd all line up out there at the 3 best wide receivers. Maybe that doesn't even really kind of catch the spirit. Maybe you just have to look at the entire room. Yeah, we're just gonna have to look at the entire room, and I'll mention the notable guys that kind of carry the weight for it, and then if need be, and if there's other players that I'm looking at the entire room. I have no choice. I have no choice because I'm looking at it right. I'm looking at teams like Cincinnati, Chase Higgins, and spoiler alert: the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be the number 1 wide receiver room for me when we do our list on Friday. The Cincinnati Bengals have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, right? But I also think, Andre Yosevich and Charlie Jones are worth a mention because I think they're going to have roles, and I think they help. So there's an example of those guys aren't slotted into the top 3, but they're worth mentioning. How would a team with 4 first-year players and 3 rookies? What do you mean, Janelle? You talking about the Packers wide receiver room? Is that what you're referencing? Because yeah, the Packers wide receiver room, you have to figure out what you're going to do with how would I rank them? Janelle, you have to come back to Friday's show to know where I rank them. I haven't even started yet, but I will actually because I have a running doc that has all my rankings in it. I'm going to put the Cincinnati Bengals number 1, Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. And just so you know, guys, I'm gonna italicize Cincinnati at number 1. The process more than where. Oh yeah, the process with them. Christian Watson's gonna do a lot of the heavy lifting when looking at the room. And it's gonna be a big bet on what Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, and Grant Dubose can be, right? Because Romeo Dobbs was okay. So I think they're gonna be outside the top 16. To be honest with you, Janelle, just based on my first initial thoughts where I think they're gonna rank. Because when you're looking at Christian Watson needing to do a lot of the heavy lifting and you're looking at rookies, I think there are going to be more established wide receiver rooms they're going to clock in front of them. Now, we'll see. And I won't punish Christian Watson too much because he's going to be a big factor, and I think he's going to help lift it up a little bit. But yeah, I think they'll be outside the top 16. See you, Bailey. Appreciate you being here. But we'll see. I've got 31 teams left to rank because I've already ranked Cincinnati number 1. So we've got 31 left to go. But yeah, I mean, and Janelle, I don't want that to be misconstrued with the idea that I don't like the room, right? I do. I think Jaden Reed's going to be the number 2 wide receiver on this team, and I think he's going to be really, really good. And so for me, I look at Grant Dubose, I look at Dontavian Wicks, and I say, are they going to be good enough in year 1 to be able to lift them up? I can't answer that question. So when I'm evaluating them into 2023, it's a little tough. But okay, that is going to do it for us here on this edition of the show. I appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate everybody's interactivity with the show. I don't even know if that's a word, but you bantering back and forth with me as we do this list. We've got one more show tomorrow that'll be random. I don't know what the topic will be yet. And then we will get into the wide receiver rankings on Friday's show. So come on back. See us again tomorrow. We've got a pretty good one in store more than likely. I don't know what the topic is, but I'm pretty sure it'll be a good one. I'm pretty sure it'll check all the boxes of what makes a good TDN Daily show. But I appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day. Everybody have a great rest of your Wednesday. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.